Good afternoon or evening, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. I'm Ben Schwank, Chief of Staff for UltraEdit and your host for today. I'm joined by Bradley Hawkins, our Product Manager for UltraEdit, and Savo Knott, the CEO and the founder of Pieces for Developers. And we're excited to give you a preview of a significant new addition to UltraEdit, our very first AI-powered plugin made possible through our integration and our partnership with Pieces for Developers. So many of you know UltraEdit as the Swiss Army knife of text editors, and today we're adding another blade to that knife. And true to UltraEdit's philosophy, this new AI plugin is as adaptable as you need it to be. So whether you're looking just for a little bit of AI help or a more fully integrated experience, we always aim to let you, our users, decide what tools work for your workflow without dictating how they should work or how you should work. We've always been about your productivity at UltraEdit, whether that's dealing with massive multi-gigabyte data files, or fine-tuning your code, or managing complex projects that span multiple technologies and platforms. And today we're going to take that a step further by bringing the power of AI into your workspace. Now, what's great about Pieces is, as you'll see shortly, is that you're not locked into one particular model. You've got options, which we love here at UltraEdit. If you're familiar with our settings dialogues, you know exactly what I mean. But in all seriousness, we see Pieces as an exciting new tool for your UltraEdit toolbox, and we're thrilled to be able to share a preview of that today with our user community. So in just a moment, our PM Brad will give you a live demo so you can see this new plugin in action. And then we're going to hear from Savo, who will dive into the technology behind the integration and into the Pieces platform itself. And if we have time for it, our panel here will be more than happy to answer any questions you have about UltraEdit or Pieces. So thanks again for joining us. We're glad to have you here. And with that, I will pass things over to Brad.
Thank you, Ben. Hopefully you can hear me. Having some mic trouble here, but
loud and clear.
All right, thank you. All right, well, hello and welcome everyone. And thank you, Ben, for that intro. You always do a great job of telling us everything that's going on and laying that out for us. We're talking about UltraEdit 2024.2 and Pieces. First thing we're going to do is we're going to walk through some of the changes for UltraEdit 2024.2 briefly. Then most of this is going to be spent on Pieces. Like I said, like Ben mentioned, I'm going to do a quick little demo. I'm going to show how to install UltraEdit with Pieces. We've made a couple changes to kind of bootstrap from UltraEdit to getting Pieces installed. And we're just going to walk through that. It doesn't take very long, but it'll show you that so you can understand the process. And then give you a quick demo of what Pieces looks like in UltraEdit, and just a basic idea of what you can do with that. And then we'll hand it over to the expert. Savo, of course, knows everything there is to know about Pieces, and he can give us a great rundown on everything it's capable of and what it can do now, and perhaps what it can do in the future. So let's get started with that. Yes, for UltraEdit 2024.2, obviously you can tell from the title and everything, Pieces is what we're talking about for that release. That is the main thing. It is a plugin, so there's that extra step which I'm going to cover for installation. I think many people here may not be, but from many users we've had contact us, not about Pieces, but about many different technologies and our plugin support. Is anything AI related going to be built into UltraEdit, or is it going to be optional or a plugin? And we designed our plugin system so that it gives you as much capability and as much power within UltraEdit as possible, while at the same time allowing you to not require those plugins, not require a specific feature. And this is no different. So when we release Pieces, excuse me, when we release UltraEdit with Pieces, if Pieces, if for whatever reason, for your organization or your company or whatnot, if there's a problem with that, we've designed this so that it's optional, and that you do not have to include it, because we know that there are many users with those security concerns. That's probably it makes, for some, you're gonna think, hey, that's strange, but that is one of the top questions I have received over the last year, is that, And my Teams is still popping up. So apologies to everyone who's seeing Teams pop up on the screen. I thought I had disabled those, so I just have to apologize for that. But that is the main question. One of the top questions we received is, do we have to use any AI feature you include, and can it be included or removed with UltraEdit? And the answer is yes, you can. You're not required to use it. So in addition to pieces, which we're going to cover through the rest of this webinar, we have made some changes with UltraEdit with our hex mode support. It's very much a niche feature, but for those users that have to get down to the nitty gritty in their files, get down to the bits and bytes as it were, we have made some additions to hex mode, some improvements for the insert and deletion commands, so that you can insert arbitrary values into your hex file, into your binary files. And also we've added an improved select range command that allows you to specify ranges in decimal or in hex. And we've also improved the byte selection deletion process so that you can select and delete arbitrary byte ranges within the visual hex displayed in the editor. Those are all additions there. And also we've got just kind of like a quality of life feature, persistent URL and underlining. We're a text editor, so we're not really an interactive experience as far as clicking on like URLs, except now we are. So if you have URLs in your text file or your code files, you can enable a persistent underlining so that all URLs in your file will be underlined to visually distinguish them, to make them easier to see and interact with. And also you can control shift click them to navigate to those URLs. So and then we have a range of bug fixes that we've done in between releases, and quality improvements and so forth. And that covers the high points of what's in 2024.2. So let's go to installation and setup for UltraEdit pieces. And for that, I am going to switch, if this will cooperate with me. Let's see here. They're gonna have to jump out of that. There we go, sorry. And we're gonna do an install of UltraEdit.
I like your background, Brad.
I would love to take credit for it, but that's whatever Windows threw up today.
Oh, nice. That's awesome. It feels magical. It's a nice theme for our AI chat.
Yeah,
For sure.
I thought it actually worked well. So when you're installing UltraEdit, and nothing's changed there except we've added this page here, which I hope everyone can see this on my desktop. It says pieces for developers, and if you would like pieces for developers, you just check the checkbox and hit next. It will go through this process. Now there is a little bit of like I said, a little bit of a bootstrap process here. So this does take a minute or so. It's going to ask you some questions, and then you can just do an automatic install of pieces. And this takes, I think on with my connection in my machine, I think it's less than a minute. So I'm gonna have to just look at this for just a second, but it does not take very long. The size of pieces, so definitely appreciate that, Savo, that your team has got the size down. It's a very small deliverable. This does not take very long to get installed. That is very much appreciated. Nobody likes waiting on their software, and you definitely do not have to wait here. It's, as you can see, this bar is growing pretty quickly, so we appreciate that.
Oh yeah. And I will say, like, any updates after the fact are diffed and stuff. So really, you're just going to pay the cost of the first install. But this is actually setting up a good amount of local models and things like that as well, that you can optionally use in pieces. We'll talk more about that in a bit. But yeah, looking good here.
And with that, it's popping up, and it is going through a few final stages. All right, and it's done. Now this is actually the pieces interface, which Savo, I'm sure you'll be talking about later in the webinar. I'm gonna go ahead and close this at the moment, and I'm gonna bring up UltraEdit. Excuse me. And let's see, let's finish that out. We don't need that. Let's launch UltraEdit. And we're gonna look at, and here we have pieces, and it should look very much like what we saw with the standalone pieces, and that's a good thing. And we have, UltraEdit. We have pieces dockable window. You can place this wherever you want as a user, or you can of course hide it, show it. So you can do whatever you want to, as you can with all of our dockable windows. And you can, let's start with something pretty straightforward. I've actually got something. Usually, of course, you have to type out your prompts, but I'm going to take a little shortcut and cheat a little bit. This is actually something I recently had to put together some code to read from the Windows registry. A very simple operation, like, hey, shouldn't there be plenty of code in UltraEdit that does that? And the answer is absolutely. There's plenty of code in UltraEdit that handles the registry. But I had a very specific problem where I needed to find to be able to take some arbitrary text keys for the registry and then take those keys and then find them in the registry. And I needed a function to do that. And so I had to make some changes to our registry code. And I had to do that by hand. It didn't take all that long, but I did have to, kind of iterate through a few instances there. It took me, about an hour, hour and a half, I think, to go through that. And I thought about after the fact, of course, way too late. I thought that, well, I should see, I'm sure plenty of the people watching and plenty of people out there, of course, use AI for various jobs and for various tasks. And it's always a great thing to be able to run, any ideas or questions or problems you may have by some of the AI advisors and see what they come up with. Sometimes I do it, like I said, after the fact. In this case, this was after the fact, to see what it would have given me. And what it would have given me would have solved my problem. I actually was, out of curiosity, I tried it and I said, hey, that gave me exactly, and it's pretty close to what I came up with, but it would have been in like, 30 seconds to a minute instead of an hour and a half. So, but
Yeah.
I'll trade it now with pieces. You've got a file, I've got a blank file open, and I want to start out creating a new function that will read from the registry with some specific requirements. I can just say ask. That should actually say, sorry, but that should actually say ask pieces. That's going to be updated before this goes out. And I've already got a prompt that I put together. Again, I'm cheating. I would have to type this, but for the purposes of this demo, and I will just ask pieces, and it will think about it a little bit, and it will generate a function to read the registry given text parameters. So it's taking like, these various string parameters, looking up the appropriate symbol identifiers and creating it. And this is, yeah, I'm looking at this now. This is exactly what I got, what I wanted. And I can just say, insert that, and it's in my file. And now I can save this, add it to my project, compile it, run it. And I actually, obviously, I don't know for sure, because I'm sure everyone's experienced that where whatever AI service you're using does not give you the exact same thing 2 times in a row. So I can't guarantee this will run, but this looks very similar to what my last test that I generated. But this is exactly what I wanted. So I did a great job with that.
Yeah, and Brett, to that point, you can show folks real fast to switch models. If so you're using
the very next thing I was going to do.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to steal your thunder, but this is awesome. I'm loving this right now.
So yeah, so if for instance this had not given me the exact thing I wanted, or if it had given me, if it had done what AI is known to do, although I've noticed it's doing it much less, if it decided to what they call hallucinate a little bit and give me something not useful, and I thought that a different AI service would work better, I can click down here in pieces, and I can select, here's a range of OpenAI models. I can select from Google models. I can select from Anthropic. These are all cloud-based models. I could also switch to locally running if you wanted to take the opportunity to install some local models to run on your device. Savo, I'm sure, will go into much greater detail on this, but I could switch to any of these other models and ask the same question and get back a result that I might like better. So
Real quick, Brad, it's important to point out you didn't have to log in to any of those models, right? You're not having to paste in an API key anywhere or anything like that.
No, this is all being handled by pieces. So this is all on pieces. This is all on Savo. We're very grateful, very happy. This works great.
Yep.
Absolutely. Yeah, we have a pretty awesome free tier. Shout out to our friends and partners over at OpenAI and Google. And we have some really awesome team and enterprise plans coming out in the new year, as well as some new pro plans for individuals. But right out the gate, what you've got is quite awesome, and I think folks will really enjoy it.
Thank you for all that, Savo. And like I said, we're going to hear a lot more from you in just a minute. Let's see. I think that was. Let me flip back over to, and let's go back into course. All right, we did the installation and setup. We did the first steps. We showed you that you could pick the various runtime you wanted, gave you an example. So that really covers just a very bare bones intro into what you can do with pieces with UltraEdit. So I think what we're going to do now, Savo, is we're going to switch over to you.
Sure.
And whenever, I don't know if you want to go ahead and jump into presenting, or you want to just walk through some slides first. I do have a few slides here that may have some content you want to talk about. It's all
Yeah.
up to you. Take it wherever you want to go.
Yeah, so Brad, obviously super exciting stuff there. I think it's tremendous to have just a little buddy, if you will, that you can just ask questions, about some of your code, maybe spot check some of the work you're doing, speed up some of the writing process, if you will. But I will say, as a developer, there's a lot more tasks that are involved than just, writing code. And I think that this is really where Pieces starts to shine, is understanding not only the current context of your file and what you're asking of it, but also the broader context across your developer workflow. And here at Pieces, we kind of think about the developer workflow as like the three major pillars. The browser, researching and problem solving. Brad, I'm sure you did a good amount of Google searches when you were writing your first implementation. But that's kind of pillar number one. Then your pillar number two is your collaboration environment. So, you're talking with your teammates about implementation or errors or whatever else. But that's a really, really big environment of context. And then pillar number three is, of course, your text editor, your IDE. And having the context of what's going on in there is really important. So Pieces understands the context across all three of those pillars, and it really allows you to generate things, ask questions, and interact in a form factor that is deeply personalized. The other thing about Pieces in terms of the context is it's able to preserve and proactively capture context, if you'd like, through what we call the long-term memory engine. And this is basically the ability for Pieces to run in the background as you operate in the browser, the IDE / text editor, or your collaboration environment. And it will form memories about this context in real time, which I'll do a little bit of a demo on here in a sec. But yeah, and then the other thing to note is, of course, like developers, they work in all different types of environments. So Pieces was designed from the ground up to do all of its AI processing on device if you'd like it to. So you can have your Wi-Fi completely off. You can use a plethora of local large language models. And then of course, Pieces ships with some really nice small models as well that do some internal tasks. And then you can also use cloud mode, right? So if you have limited compute or memory, you can set the processing to the cloud, and you can defer all that compute up there. So that's just a pretty high level overview, but I think the demo will be pretty exciting here. So let me go ahead and share my screen and we can get into it. So sharing, and then I want to share my screen. You'll have to forgive me because I have not used this too much before. So I think that I can do this. Oh boy. I might have to set my preferences. I might be back in like 1 second. Apologies about this. Okay, let me do this real fast.
Yeah, it's nothing like the live webinar for the issues to pop up, right, Ben?
For those of you who are in attendance, Brad's making a joke there because I had a technical snafu on the last webinar that I did. So I'm no stranger to it. Looks like Savo's back.
And it looks like, if you guys can see, we are sharing, which is great. Awesome. Yeah, sorry about that. Thanks for hanging tight. Classic permissions. So one thing to note is I am on Mac OS. Pieces does run across Mac OS, Linux, and Windows as a native, hardware accelerated application. So you should get some really nice performance. But yeah, let me go ahead and jump into what we were discussing is basically the long-term memory engine of Pieces and really understanding the broader context of your developer workflow. So I'll go ahead and pull up a pretty fresh Pieces instance here. And you can see, you know, I've got my Copilot conversation. This is the desktop app. And you know, the thing to note is everything you see in UltraEdit is actually the same as what you're seeing right here in the desktop app. So for example, if I were to kind of make this a narrow, you know, type of layout, that is effectively what you're going to get inside of UltraEdit. So everything you're seeing here in this demo also applies to UltraEdit. But yeah, I'll go ahead and start out with some of the fun stuff, which is the on-device models. I think people are always surprised about how good they are. But you know, you can see here, I'm actually using a on-device model called Llama from Meta, and there's a whole bunch of varieties in models that you can choose from. And all of this is actually powered by a really nice local model runtime called Ollama. It's kind of becoming the standard for cross-platform local LLMs. So I can go ahead and start a new Copilot chat here, you know, and I can say, you know, give me an example of a stateless widget in Flutter. We saw a little bit of this code gen in Brad's example, but the difference here is that I'm using a 8 billion parameter local on-device model. So I would love to show you all of this with the Wi-Fi off. You'll have to try it yourself, but I would lose the webinar again. So that said, we obviously are building developer tools, you know, and privacy, security, and compliance is always top of mind for us. And one of the best approaches that we could take to this is really making sure that anything you want to do within Pieces is available to be done offline on device. So we pride ourselves in that. But yeah, let me go ahead and show you some of the magic that I was talking about when it comes to long-term memory formation in real time. So I'm going to go ahead and switch over to a larger model here so we can do some more advanced stuff. I switched over to GPT-4o Mini, and you'll note when I come into the Pieces Copilot, I have this option to turn on long-term memory, right? So this long-term memory engine is effectively switching the context of the conversation, not to just generate code, but to actually ask things that you've been doing in the moment or things that you've been doing historically. So, you know, where did I leave off with my work? When was the last time I ran into this error? You know, what was Johnny and I, or what was Johnny working on? What were we discussing back in, like, you know, Thanksgiving time or something like that. So with this on, I'll go ahead and start with an example of forming a memory in real time. So I'll go over to Chrome, and Pieces is kind of running in the background here. I'll do a Google search for a package. So this image picker package from Flutter, I'm taking a look at it. And this is what developers do, you know, day in, day out. They're looking and researching, they're jumping around, and maybe they're not spending too much time taking notes, but they might need some of this information later. So the beauty of Pieces is that it is kind of maintaining and remembering this context over time. So I'm looking at this documentation, you know, kind of giving it a glance, pretty interesting. I can just go over to Pieces now, and I can say, what was I just researching in Chrome? If I can type Chrome related to images, what is the URL to that package? So I'm gonna go ahead and give it a prompt, and what it's doing right now is it is actually kind of retrieving against that stuff. Hopefully I did not run into, there we go. It's retrieving against those memories, which are stored in a local vector database. And then it's kind of determining what memories are the best, and then it's packing the context of this model with those memories, and it's creating the prompt and making the request. So as you can see, you know, I use this keyword of just. So that's kind of a temporal, you know, reference to like 30 seconds ago, a minute ago. And I said, you know, it was in Chrome, it was in this application, and it was something, you know, related to images. And I said, can I have the URL? So Pieces said, you know, you're researching this package, and oh, by the way, you know, here's a link to this image picker. I do know that earlier we were looking at some of the slides, but let's go ahead and give it a question such as, what is the link to the UltraEdit presentation that I was reviewing in Google Slides earlier?
And Savo, just to confirm, everything you're doing right here, an UltraEdit user can do directly in UltraEdit with the Pieces plugin, right?
That's exactly right. So, you know, you will have it kind of look something like this. you can go over here, you can turn on long-term memory, or if you start a new chat in UltraEdit, you can kick that off with long-term memory. And imagine, you're jumping between UltraEdit, Chrome, Microsoft Teams. You can just go back to UltraEdit, turn on long-term memory, and ask, hey, what was that one website I was researching, a couple hours ago related to this package, right? And Pieces will maintain that context for you.
That's just incredible. Sorry to interrupt. I had to. It was just so cool. I had to say something.
It's really awesome. I mean, we're super excited about it. And this is the main thing that differentiates Pieces from everything else out there, is like models like Anthropic, and Claude or OpenAI, they only have the context of the current conversation. They're not really forming long-term memories across the entire operating system, right? And as a developer, your job is really to half remember something and look up the rest. But if you don't save it, you don't take notes, whatever else, that process of finding it later on becomes really, really tedious. And if you're like me, you'll finish the day with 50, 100 different tabs open, a bunch of context switching, etc. Pieces really distills all that context down into this conversational form factor, which is pretty cool. But yeah, to note there, it said, yep, here's the UltraEdit presentation you were looking at, deep linked right to it. Really, really awesome. And so we're pretty excited about just the ability for Pieces to form these memories, link them to external context, link them to local folders, local files. So you can ask, what was that one text file that I downloaded a couple weeks ago related to XYZ, and Pieces will say, here you go, you click it, you open it in Explorer or Finder. Deep links are pretty awesome. We're really proud of those. But yeah, that's kind of an example of how Pieces forms memories. It understands your context, and this becomes really, really powerful when you're trying to generate code. So I can, go ahead and ask the question here. Give me some sample code for the image package that I was researching a bit ago in Chrome. So instead of generating like any, just any old code, if you will, it's going to say, here's an example of the image picker package. Here's how to use it. Here's the dependencies, everything like that. So this ability to use long-term memory and ground the model when you're generating code becomes extremely powerful. So Brad, in your use case, you were researching a whole bunch of stuff about the Windows registry. When you go to ask a question, you can say, given all the research I was doing on the Windows registry earlier, I need XYZ, right? And that becomes a compounding level of context for your code generation flows. So yeah, that's a quick example. The last thing I want to cap off on is the drive component of Pieces, which is also powered by long-term memory. And we'll talk a little bit about how we're able to interlink code snippets, context, and really create a pretty powerful digital brain, if you will. So the Pieces drive, what we're just looking at here is the Pieces Copilot, but the Pieces drive is this location where you can just copy and paste really anything. So I'll show you an example here where, of course, Pieces is understanding, I was researching this, whatever else, but as I'm kind of perusing the documentation, I could say, okay, great, here's a bit of code that I know I'm going to want later on. For most of my career, this is what it looked like to save some code. I open up a Notes app or a text file or Scratch file, and I paste it in there. And this could be tremendously improved with machine learning. So what is under the hood for the long-term memory is this deep enrichment that occurs every time you save a material. So inside of my Pieces drive view, my saved materials, you can see I just pasted that image picker, and almost instantaneously we got an image, we got a title, the Flutter image picker example, and then it deeply enriched it with metadata. So tags, suggested searches, descriptions, related links. Over time, it's actually able to associate your colleagues' profiles. So if someone works on image pickers all the time, like it's going to say, hey, Brad's associated to that, which is pretty great. And I'll go ahead and show you, the way that this is able to kind of run so smoothly and continuously is all of that enrichment happens locally and on device. So what I can do here is I can go to my settings and I can go over and I can set it to local processing. So this is not going to touch the cloud even, at all. And we can do the same type of example. So I can grab this, semaphores package that we wrote a little bit ago, and I can go ahead and copy this. I'll open up Pieces, not my Notes app, and we'll paste this in. So paste from my clipboard here. And you can see it did, hey, that's not just text, it's actually code. It classified it as dark code as well. It gave it a title, and then we still got a good amount of local enrichment. So, we've got our searches, descriptions, links, and so on and so forth, which is pretty awesome. So because Pieces is not just looking at things as like arbitrary text, but it's deeply enriching that material and then forming the long-term memory around it, that's what allows, this kind of retroactive lookup to be, quite powerful. So you've got the Pieces drive, you've got the kind of saved materials, and then you've got the Copilot, right? And all of that is available right inside of the UltraEdit IDE, which we're really excited about. So that's a little bit of the demo. Like I said, Mac OS, Linux, and Windows, it's available today, either through UltraEdit or Pieces.app. And we're super excited just to see where that integration goes. Yeah. Nice. I can pause there. Brad and Ben, I'm sure you guys saw some exciting stuff, but yeah, we can kind of chat on what the new year looks like maybe.
Yeah, we've got, actually, let me, I will switch back here. Hold on a second.
No worries.
Working on it here. So you should be seeing my screen again, hopefully.
Looking great.
All right. Yeah, that was great. So that was all really great information. Actually, I learned more that about Pieces just in your presentation. So I thought that was great. And I have been using Pieces for more and more. Just I don't know that I would ever really need to do this as part of normal development, but just to kind of stretch the what I think of as boundaries a little bit. I actually had a document I was working on that has a screenshot of a PowerShell script, and that I'd done some time ago. And just because I knew Pieces would do it, I took that screenshot of the PowerShell script and gave it to Pieces, and it turned it back into, I assume you've got something somewhere doing some OCR, and it turned that back into actual script for me to use, and went through the trouble of fixing up my PowerShell script and making it better than whenever I first wrote it and took a screenshot of it. So thank you.
Heck yeah. Yeah, that's a handy little use case. It's like Pieces understand code, links, screenshots, really whatever you drop into it.
So yeah, we probably do. Let's see. We're looking. I've got your. Yeah, I don't think we showed these slides, but here was the last slide I had, and you covered everything great. Some of the slides were completely superfluous. So I think the next thing, I'm going the wrong direction. There we go. So really, I think we're wrapping up the end of the content here. Just really talk about what's next, both in terms of Pieces and in terms of UltraEdit releases as well. But I think first the best thing to do we talk about what's next for Pieces and how that might apply to UltraEdit. I mean, if you've got things, I don't want to put you on the spot or anything, but there's things you can talk about that you're coming with Pieces. Please feel free to.
Yeah, absolutely. So so just like the Copilot module, we are going to be releasing our kind of Pieces drive module as well. So you'll have kind of all your saved materials and your Copilot right inside of UltraEdit, which is super fantastic. And then yeah, I mean, in the new year, we're really looking at we've got some enhanced database stuff that will update the database locally, but also support real-time sync across all your devices. And then it will also support kind of like all the collaborative features that you can imagine. So, Pieces in the context of a team is less about, what was I doing XYZ time ago, but more so, in your shared memory collection across your teammates, what was Johnny working on related to this a couple months ago that he shared with me, right? Or when was the last time anyone on my team has ran into an error like this? So really excited about the collaborative stuff in the new year. And then, yeah, I mean, I would say Pieces is going to get better and better at just, surfacing the right memories and the right context at the right time. So you have your Copilot, which you can ask questions about your code or what you've done historically, but then you'll also have kind of this Pieces feed, which will just surface context proactively based on what you're doing in the moment. which is another step function. Hopefully you go from writing, all these verbose prompts to just, here's what you need, you grab it, you reuse it. So yeah, I think everything around collaboration, the proactive nature of the product is going to continue to be a focus as well. And then yeah, unifying the awesome experiences between the Copilot and the Pieces Drive is what's on deck for the new year. Yeah.
That all sounds. I'm really looking forward to seeing all that come together. I could see just from the point of view of the UltraEdit development team, I could see some serious advantages to having those capabilities across our entire team. I mean, just making so much easier. Sure, we have Teams, we have all the traditional email, all those things to do. We have various Google services and so forth, but being able to interact with everything you showed us, along with everyone in the team, and get that context being the most important word, I think, there that you showed, and sharing that across the entire team, whether you're working on a project or a source file or just a single function. I'm really looking forward to see how that comes out, because we would benefit from it, and if we would benefit from it, I assume our users would benefit from it as well.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that is slated for February, actually. So we are wrapping up all the cloud infrastructure for it, all the new database upgrades right now. So we just had Pieces OS 11, which is one of the bigger launches of the year. But we will have Pieces 11.1 likely by the end of the year, which has all of that infrastructure in it. And then we begin pilots, which we're obviously happy to circulate for anyone interested, but pilots will begin in January, and then general availability is in February. So looking forward to it, and we will be working with you guys, so you guys can kind of help us workshop it and make it as good as it can be.
Very exciting stuff. I really am interested to see where all this comes together. I think what we're going to do real quick, though, is I'm just going to very briefly touch on some of the things we're looking forward to UltraEdit, and then I think we'll just jump into some questions. Salvo, if you have time to hang around a little bit, we'll jump into some questions with our attendees and see what's going on. But looking forward, we've been talking about we've really been talking about pieces, but that's the the main component that we've added to UltraEdit 2024.2. But we do want to look forward to what's coming in the upcoming releases of UltraEdit. I don't have it listed here, but we have an UltraEdit 2024.3, which will be out in the new year, and we'll bring some a lot of quality enhancements. Looking at things that our users have come back and asked us to look at, and it'll just be a what we would call like a maintenance release. But then we're going to move into UltraEdit 2025. And which will be early in the spring, and we're looking at again, this is kind of a niche feature, but EDI, or electronic data interchange, we do have a lot of users who use it to across the various industries that use EDI, whether it's shipping or medical records or retail. I mean, there's a lot of industries that use EDI, so we're looking at enhancing that and adding some features to make UltraEdit work. It already is being used by a lot of people to handle EDI records and EDI data streams, but we're looking at enhancing that and making it even more capable to make all of anyone who's using EDI to make your job a little easier. And then later on in the 2025 series, we're going to be looking at language syntax and parsing improvements. UltraEdit really could use we're always looking forward to making what we can do now, make it better. And so we're looking at adding support for the common language servers that are supported by a lot of third-party editors, like Visual Studio Code, for instance. So we're looking at adding support for language servers and just generally improving our language support. And then before we get into question and answer, this is actually kind of answering a question that's already been asked, but since it's in the context of what's coming up, and it's in the context of Pieces, and since Savo showcased for us that Pieces is absolutely a cross-platform service and application, is that I know we have users who are asking, when is this going to be available in UltraEdit on Mac and Linux? And the answer to that is that I don't have a specific release date, unfortunately, but it is going to be in the next release of UltraEdit for Mac and Linux, which is planned for early in the new year. There are some technical considerations. How you host a control, I don't want to get in the nitty gritty, but how you host a control like pieces and within the application is a little different on Windows, Mac, and Linux. So we've got some technical hurdles, but that is on our roadmap to include into the next Mac and Linux release. So for everyone out there who's asking that, the answer is, it's not next week, but it is coming in the new year, and it'll be the next Mac and Linux release that goes out. That will be Mac and Linux release 2024. I know that's it's 2025, but we'll release 2024. And that's where we are with the Mac and Linux. But we will be releasing a 2025 before the end of 2025, and that will catch up our Mac and Linux users in terms of version numbers and as much as we can with the feature capabilities. And I think pieces being added to Mac and Linux will go a long way towards addressing that gap between our Windows release and our Mac and Linux release. So I think that covers what we have coming. Well, obviously we have a lot more coming in the new year, but just give you a peek of what's coming in the immediate future in the next few months. That covers that. So let's go ahead and switch over. And do we have Ben and Troy and Johnny have questions you'd like to have answered?
Sure, I can field some questions for us, and I just want to mention to anybody who's on the call, please feel free to ask your question in the question panel for the webinar. If we're not able to get to it, we will follow up with you separately, but I think we should have enough time to get to everybody. So any questions that you have about how Pieces works with UltraEdit, or maybe the roadmap for UltraEdit or the roadmap for Pieces, feel free to ask them, and we will be more than happy to discuss. So why don't we start with this one? I think Sabo, you might want to field this one. And you may have touched on this in your presentation a little bit, but Jeff asks, does Pieces automatically monitor whatever apps you're using during your session, or do you have to configure that?
Yeah, so you have to set up the long-term memory engine initially, and that's that background service that's forming the memories, across the operating system. That said, that does have an allow and deny list, so you can say, hey, I don't want you to, ever understand anything going on in like iMessage or WhatsApp or something like that. And then the other thing is you can always pause the long-term memory, which is pretty nice. I can just present super fast here as well, just so folks can get a sense of it. But yeah, so inside of Pieces, if you're working on something and you're like, hey, I don't want you to form any memories, you can basically go over to the Pieces dropdown. This is also in the little Windows kind of like quick actions pop up. But yeah, you can go ahead and say, I want to pause this for 15 minutes, an hour, 24 hours. You can actually do a whole bunch of other stuff as well. Clear your long-term memory. You can see some of the sources. You can allow them, deny them, whatever. So it's pretty cool. We do try and give you as much granularity in control over it as possible. But the short of it is, yes, it will be running and it'll kind of create those memories for you. You don't have to do anything extra besides just turn on long-term memory in your installation process. So you can just go to settings, machine learning, and then long-term memory engine. You can just turn this on, which is pretty cool.
And that's on device, so there are no concerns about privacy or anything going up to the cloud or anything like that, right?
That's right. So yeah, so all of the processing that actually forms memories in real time, that has to happen on device, mostly because it's so much data, but obviously like the privacy and security, not to say that the cloud isn't secure, but you're just processing so much data, and those memories basically get stored right here. Not to get too technical, but I know we're on a developer webinar, so it will be in a com.pieces.os folder, and then it will be in this quadrant vector database, which is pretty cool. So you can see your snapshots, all your embeddings, your storage. The other note on that is you actually have your actual Pieces database with all your database fragments and stuff. So like I said, all the cloud capabilities are opt-in if you'd like, and we work really hard to make sure that this stuff runs on device first and foremost really well.
Awesome. Yeah, I guess I should have said privacy, not so much security is the issue there. Thank you. Yeah. Another question here, maybe Brad, this is more for you, or maybe you both tackle this from different ends, but Someone wants to know, can we use pieces to analyze and modify content that we currently have open in UltraEdit? For example, I just opened a large CSV file and I need to extract certain fields of that data based on format and also conditionally based on the content of other nearby fields, if they exist at all, then create a tab formatted document with that result. Is that currently possible with pieces in UltraEdit?
Well, it would depend on the. I'm going to assume that there would be a size factor there. If it was something that was capable of if you've got a multi-terabyte CSV file, and we do have users with multi-terabyte CSV files,
Oh my
then
God.
that would cause some issues. But if you had a reasonably sized file, you could like if you, I think I showed the ask pieces. You just ask pieces a question, and it uses the context of the file you have open. So you could ask pieces a specific question about the file you have open, and we provide that data to pieces in that context. So if pieces is capable of understanding the file you have open and is able to give you useful information about how to modify or to modify the file for you, then it can give you that output in the pieces window. Now it is a manual process currently for you to, you would have to copy and paste or insert using the insert command in pieces back into your file. But you could certainly right click the file, say ask pieces, type what you want to find out, pieces would reply to you in the context of that file, and then you could either copy and paste the result or insert using the insert command back into your file. So the answer is yes, with qualifiers. And we're going to be working. One of the things, like I put on the list of what's next, is definitely improving. Pieces does a lot more than UltraEdit can do with it right now, but we're going to be improving that with every release. With the 2024.3 release coming out early in the year, we're going to leverage more pieces capabilities. In the 2025 release coming in, the early spring, we're going to do more with what pieces can do. So that you can do what you asked, and you'll be able to do more as time goes on.
Yeah, and just to add to that as well, because Pieces is running on your device, Pieces OS is really the core server that's doing all of this. You can actually access just how UltraEdit accesses it localhost, and we have a good amount of APIs and SDKs available, so you can always script that up and just use the Pieces endpoints for a task that you want to be a bit more agentic. So that's kind of the flexibility of Pieces, is you can use it visually with the interface, or you can use it programmatically with the local API.
Yeah, and there's opportunity there for us on the UltraEdit side as well, right? To use more of those APIs. I think that's what you were alluding to there, Brad. So
that's exactly what I was. I mean, if I wasn't clear, then that was exactly what I was trying to say. Is that we're going to take advantage of more and more of the API that Pieces already exposes to provide more capabilities within UltraEdit. Yes.
yeah, it's important, I think, to point out that this provides a level of integration between a third party and UltraEdit that we really haven't seen before with UltraEdit. We've tended to be very closed off in terms of our application and keeping things locked down and secure and that sort of thing, because that's what our users want. But with the flexibility of Pieces and the new plugin platform for UltraEdit, we're now able to kind of span that gap in a secure way, and in a way that we have a couple questions here about this, so I'll just go ahead and say that Pieces is a totally optional install. If this isn't going to work for you for some reason, if you have a corporate policy that no LLMs, no AI is allowed on your system, then this is an opt-in feature for UltraEdit. It's not turned on by default, so you can use as much or as little of it as you want. And then we have a couple of questions here about how to get Pieces. How do I get 2024.2? Do I need to reinstall? Do I need to uninstall? Is there something else that I need to do? I think we're planning on going to GA with UltraEdit 2024.2 later this week, Brad, but correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, currently that is our plan. GA later this week, and if, the installer will look very close or identically to what I showed in the earlier in the webinar, so that you run the installer as normal, and once the install is complete, you'll be presented with in the installer a page with a checkbox. If you check the checkbox, you get pieces installed. If you don't check the checkbox, you don't get pieces installed. We tried to make it as simple as we could, and the pieces team already has made their install, as I demonstrated, very very straightforward. So it's a simple process, I think.
Yep. And if you're interested in previewing it before that, we are in beta right now, and that is open to pretty much any of our customers. So feel free to reach out to us at support@ultraedit.com to request the beta, and you can get a preview of pieces in UltraEdit and try it out for yourself before it's generally available. A couple questions about, oh, sorry, go ahead, Brad.
I was going to say that we will be releasing the pre-release, which for those who know or don't know, we always follow our beta with a pre-release, which is really part of the beta process. It goes out to the same people. We will be sending out the pre-release. The plan right now is to send that out tomorrow. And then if there are no issues with that pre-release, we will then send out the GA release at the end of the week. So we're rapid fire. These things are coming out real quick. So, but yes, definitely if someone's interested in the beta or the pre-release, write to us. We'll set them up.
Awesome.
Yeah. Hey Ben, super fast on that question about basically using pieces in an enterprise environment. So two things to note there: we are SOC 2 compliant, and we obviously are always open for any type of pilots or conversations. That's actually a relatively easy conversation. And we are doing this with some pretty large enterprises. I won't name them right now, but the new year is pretty exciting on that front. So yeah, we are going to make sure our T's are crossed and I's are dotted. We're getting a couple of other compliance levels as well, like ISO 27000. That's a pretty important compliance. But that said, pieces, the best type of compliance is basically one where it never touches the cloud. So if you want to experiment with pieces in an enterprise environment, you can totally do so. You'll just use it in a completely offline capacity.
Awesome. Yeah. We had a question about that. And if you do have concerns or you need special assurances or agreements, please reach out to us at support@ultraedit.com, and we will have our compliance department work with you on the documentation that you need for that. And as Savo said, they've already got the SOC 2 compliance. So and others from what we just heard are in the works. So I think we're in good shape there. Someone's asking about I'm trying to understand this question from Tom. I think he's asking about templates in UltraEdit, not using indents. Can pieces fix this? So Tom, I'm actually going to direct this question away from pieces. I think you're talking about smart templates inserting into UltraEdit, and there should be an option to respect the indent level for templates. So I know we're kind of off topic here, but I just wanted to answer this quickly. I'm going to go see if I can find where exactly that is. I believe that's in settings. Let me just check real quick. If you go to advanced settings and then templates, there is a checkbox that says maintain indent level when inserting templates. So make sure that's checked, and I think you should be copacetic. But if not, reach out to us and let us know, and we'll get it worked out for you. Let's see, anything else here? Did I already ask about UE Studio, Brad? We have a couple of questions about when it'll be available in UE Studio.
Well, our UltraEdit and UE Studio releases are synced, and they have been for the past several releases. So when we release UltraEdit, hopefully by the end of the week, that will include UE Studio, and it will include the pieces plugin.
Awesome. So right around the corner after UltraEdit. That's great. No question here, but just a note from Jeff. We answered his question before. He said, thank you. The Pieces API plus the UltraEdit plugin capability for third-party tools sounds exciting. Looking forward to that, as we are as well. And credit to Savo and his team for the awesome work that they've done there. And I'm not sure, we might need to, Savo, you might know this, I don't, but Pascal is asking, what is Pieces tariff structure? I'm not sure what's meant by that.
Yeah, it's probably our pricing structure. So we are refining that. We're going to be doing some pricing research against our user base in the new year. It's probably a little too early to say, but it's not going to break the bank. It'll be priced, kind of like in tiers where you have the general Pieces Pro, and that'll be, somewhere in the $10 range per month. 8 to $10, and then we will have particular like add-ons for certain things that you might want to have. Like I said, we're still working out the details there. A lot of nuances, and I know that our relationship with UltraEdit as well will be involved in that conversation. So yeah, too early to say exactly, but I will say it's not going to break the bank, and the kind of productivity gains that you're going to get are going to be well worth it. Yeah, for sure.
Awesome. And so what we saw in the demo today of Pieces in UltraEdit, will that be included in the free Pieces plan, or do we not know that yet?
Yeah, so that is going to be, so everything you saw today will be in the free Pieces plan. But when I say we have a lot of stuff that's coming out in the new year, we have a lot. And so we're really excited about all the new features. Some of those will be paywalled, some of those won't. And then, yeah, I mean, like, we want to make sure like people can come in, get a lot of benefit from the existing product. And then, as you become more of a power user over time, you can kind of work your way into different, pricing plans and things like that. But like I said, a little early to say exactly right now, but we are very excited about the new features. And also, they're pretty attainable price point for folks in the new year. Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. So I just want to reiterate that for all our attendees, everything you saw today will be and remain free in UltraEdit. However, the Pieces team is coming out with some incredible extended functionality, advanced functionality that is probably worth paying for.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
All right. I think we've just about covered everything here. Let me double check. So yeah, in order to get Pieces again in UltraEdit, all you have to do is download 2024.2 when it comes out later this week, or UE Studio when it comes out early next week or the week after. I'm not sure what the holidays, what that'll look like, but you'll have it if you want it. If you don't want it, don't check the box for it, and you'll have the same UltraEdit that you've always had. But
Yeah.
I don't think we have any further questions. Go ahead, Savo.
Just to add to that, you can start playing with Pieces today at pieces.app, and when you get the UltraEdit upgrade, like UltraEdit will already know that it's installed, and they'll be ready to go, which is pretty awesome. So it's really really however you want to get it.
Yep, awesome. I don't think we have any further questions, Brad, and we're actually up on the top of the hour here, so that is perfect timing. Brad, Savo, is there anything further you guys wanted to add?
No, I think that I especially want to thank Savo. I think you did a fantastic job, Savo. Covered a lot of content, gave us a lot of information, gave our users a lot of content. So I have nothing further to add except to say thank you.
Well, right back at you guys. Really excited about the new year. I think it's tremendous what we're doing here, and yeah, super exciting.
Indeed. I think we're all very interested over here on the UltraEdit side. I personally, as Brad has mentioned, am very interested in leveraging some of Pieces' capabilities with what I do in UltraEdit. And so we're eager to hear from our users how they use it as well, and if they have any feedback. So any of you that are with us now or watching later in the future, please feel free to email us and let us know if you'd like to see something added or some new integration with Pieces and the way that you use UltraEdit. So with that, we'll wrap things up. I just want to thank Brad Hawkins, our product manager for UltraEdit, and Savo Knott, the CEO and founder of Pieces, for being with us today. And I want to thank all of our attendees for hanging around with us and for all of these great questions. So we're excited for what the future holds, and we will see you on a future webinar. Thank you, everyone.
Rock on. All right. Thank you so much. Happy holidays.
Thank
Same
you.
to you.
Bye.
Bye.